Welcome to 30 Flirty and Panicking, your go-to podcast for embracing the unexpected and building a life you love. I'm Kelsey, and today we're chatting with financial expert, internet sensation, and author of Future Rich Person, The New Rules for Building Wealth, Haley Sachs, aka Mrs. Dow Jones. Haley describes her online persona as Suze Orman meets Paris Hilton, and I honestly can't think of a better description. She makes talking about money feel fun and approachable and somehow aspirational, but much less intimidating. And in this episode, Haley and I get very real about the importance of mastering your money mindset. We talk about how to make saving feel exciting, which is something I've personally struggled with, the art of salary negotiations and the side hustle, investing, and how to get in the game no matter where you're starting from. Because let's be honest, when it comes to money, we aren't all beginning in the same place. There are some people who are born on third base and others who are still trying to find the field. But I think what I find empowering about this conversation is it makes it instantly clear that no matter where you're at right now, there are steps that you can take to move the needle financially and create more freedom for yourself. And I know I want to feel financially free. I want you to be financially free because ultimately that's what gives us the power to make choices from a place of confidence and walk away from whatever is not serving us and build lives we are genuinely excited about. So let's do it. Our Future Rich Person era starts right now. Haley Sachs, I'm so happy to have you on 30 Flirty and Panicking. Thank you for taking the time out of what I know is a very busy schedule of yours right now.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is like a little afternoon delight, 4 p.m. I just get to like kiki with the girls. I'm excited to be here.
I know, we're going to have some fun and we're going to leave feeling en route to being financially free. And that's honestly the most important thing.
So important for women.
For so many reasons, I'm so passionate about echoing and amplifying the messages that you share and equipping women with the tools that you share. So we are going to do just that in this episode. And obviously, you've been sharing the wealth of wisdom that is Mrs. Dow Jones since 2017. You're really an OG financial influencer and now have this book that we're going to get into, Future Rich Person, which I'm so grateful for. And I know our audience is going to be too. But before we do unpack all of that, I want to give you a chance just to talk a little bit about your story before Mrs. Dow Jones came to be. Can you walk us through life before we arrived at this chapter?
Absolutely. So yeah, I grew up on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, sort of surrounded by wealth. My mom worked at IBM and on Wall Street. And then my dad has been at Goldman Sachs for over 40 years. So I was like, and also just like the culture uptown, I feel like it's so, you can tell that like money is the heartbeat. Money is like so important. It's what, it drives power and like it has, uh, so much impact. But, despite being in that community, no one ever taught me anything about like how it works or, the terminology. And it was something that like actually just wasn't talked about. And so I pursued comedy and entertainment. And so I started my career. I know you were a page, you were NBC though. I was CBS. So I was a page at David Letterman. That was my first job out of college. But that's important to note because that was like a 1099 job, like for us at least, a page was not a full-time job. So there were none of the questions of health insurance and, 401ks or anything like that. And then I sort of just went deep into pounding the pavement, trying to be a comedian. So I had a bunch of like, um, part-time jobs. Like I was a nanny for a kid named Winthrop. I worked at SLT, the Pilates studio. It would be like Mary Kate and Ashley coming in, Carly Kloss, like all the, supermodels trying to get a reformer. Just like I was a caterer. I was like doing all these random things while I was, working on uh creating like digital comedy content sort of online and also doing a lot of stand-up and improv. And then I got a job for Lord Michaels. And it was sort of the time who started SNL, and it was sort of the time uh of like College Humor, like all of those like internet websites that we would go to for humor. And so I think SNL wanted to like start their version of that. So they hired me and then they hired Ben Marshall, who's now on SNL. He's the redhead. So it was like me and him, and it was like our responsibility to like make the content. And it was the most exciting, dreamy job ever. And gave me that idea of like security in the workplace that I think I'd been searching for and like was something like my parents could be proud of. And so I had all of this like pressure on the role. And then the first day I went in and they were asking me about like, what 401k package do you want to do? Like, how much do you want to contribute? What health insurance plan do you want to do? Like, just like all of these adulting questions that no one had ever explained to me. And I was so confused, Kelsey, and
Yeah.
so overwhelmed, and mostly just felt like sort of humiliated and stupid. So then I went home and I did, I think, what any self respecting millennial would do. And I sort of Googled those terms. And what I found was like the information for women was so much about like scarcity,
Yeah.
sort of like rewash your paper towels, skip your manicures, never buy pre-cut vegetables at the grocery store. Like, God forbid you have an avocado toast. And then for men, it would be more about investing, but it was like so jargon driven. And like the guys were just also like not aspirational. Like they look like they had never been through puberty. So I couldn't, like, understand. I was like, in order for me to wanna get good with money, it needs to feel aspirational because I am of the like generation and age and like brain rot of like the Kardashians and
Yes.
Beyonce and like all these like
Yes.
fabulous, glamorous women that like I want to be like. But none of them were really talking about money or like talking about being good with money. And so I was like, what if there was someone like that who made it feel glamorous and aspirational to grow wealth, to actually like set limits with your friends, to negotiate your salary, to like invest in your Roth IRA. Like, what if it became aspirational to be good with money versus like how it's always aspirational to spend money and show off your money? Like, let's talk about actually making it aspirational to build wealth. And so I couldn't find her. So I became her.
Thank goodness. When did you start, Haley? Were you working for Lauren when you were starting to build this?
Yeah. So I had sort of had a little bit of the idea before I started. Um, because I had had a meeting at CNBC by chance, like, and I was like, they're never going to hire me, but I know how to do social media. So like maybe I could, I took the meeting and I was like pitching them, oh, maybe I could do something on social media with money. Like, no one cares about their finances, but everyone loves like pop culture. Maybe I could mix it together. But then when I got the job with Lauren, I was so all in. Like, talk about someone who didn't hedge her bets at all. Like, I literally was like, great, they're going to take care of me forever. I want to be here till I die. I'm getting the keys to Hollywood.
Lauren Michaels is no joke. So
Yeah.
I don't blame you for feeling like that.
But I was like, I could not see the writing on the wall, Kelsey. And I got laid off 6 months in, which really ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Like, it was so shocking and hard in the moment. And I think that when you get laid off, you feel like it's a reflection of yourself.
Yeah.
That like this is happening because of you, but like it really wasn't. After that, I took this inkling of an idea and I went heads first into it. But that being said, you should never pursue your side hustle full time until to making enough money to support you. So I took like a year where then there was someone at above average who set me up with this job at like music digital production company. So I'd be like writing digital videos for like rappers and you know DJs and things. So they were doing skits and so I would write those, make some money, pay my rent, and then like adamantly post it on Mrs. Dow Jones every single day. And then at the end of that year, I was in the New York Times. And so that like blew everything up. And then like pretty soon after that, it was the pandemic. And so, which was like a horrible time for everyone, but like sort of a great time for financial literacy because like people were at home, they were online. And so that was, when I made Fortune 40 under 40, because I was doing all of these like pandemic relief programs and just really like trying to serve my community during that weird time. And so there's been like so many iterations of Mrs. Dow Jones, and it's so interesting and cool. I was actually crying last night. Like I was on a walk with my dog, and I was like just trying to like because even in the 2 years since I like signed my book contract, so much has changed, and it's just like I feel so grateful, and it's just crazy when you put pressure on yourself, like how much you're able to sort of like grow under that and like sort of like it's so hard, but then you sort of can, if you can take a step back and like appreciate how all the ways in which you've like grown through it, it's pretty cool.
Well, I love that you've done that because I think it's so easy to get like in a funnel, like what's next mindset. And it takes kind of these big moments. I mean, this is a massive deal. I'm glad you did look back. And before we get too far away from it, I actually want to ask you obviously, we're in such a time of a surge in side hustles. I think in our minds, it's like, we'll start this little side hustle and then, like, in a few weeks, we can jump right into it. And you talk about not diving into the pool until you know there's enough water. Can you talk about how you know if you're starting something when you can consider actually pursuing it full time?
Yeah. So I mean, I actually talk about it in the book, sort of like the fetishization sort of side hustles, where it's like people, of course, and one of the main pillars of the book is secure the damn bag, make more money.
Yeah.
Especially as women, I guarantee you, you're not being paid what you're worth. Like you are being underpaid. You need to be negotiating. Ask for 15% every single year, even if they come back and they only give you 8%. Costs of living is increasing 3%, you're still getting a good raise, but like you need to be making more money. But I think a lot of people get confused and they think that the way to do that is just by adding a side hustle. But it's like if you're a nurse who's working at a hospital for 100 hours a week and you want to make more money, you would literally like die if you added in a side hustle. Like, girl, you need to rest. Like, how about you? No more hustling. You need to get in bed, like, see a friend, like, watch some Bravo, like, eat something. Like, let's just chill out. And so, a lot of the book is also about like optimization and strategy. So, like, if you're in a position like that, being like, hey, okay, this public hospital isn't paying me shit. I can't do a side
Mhm.
hustle. Maybe I should take a step back and work as a private nurse. And so it's like that was like, something that someone in the book did that like really improved their finances because then they were able to like 1.5x their income just by making that and by without adding more hours in. So I don't think that side hustling needs to be this like given for everyone where it's like, okay, yeah, I want to be good with money. So I guess I need a side hustle. But that being said, if it is something that you're passionate about, the book has so much in it around that because our generation is the biggest generation of people who have their own businesses, but no one teaches you how to do it. So, everything from how to set up your LLC, what the different structures are like, what sort of tax advantage accounts you get access to from these. Like, there's so many nuances to it. But yeah, the biggest thing is just like you said, making sure there's water in the pool before you jump and not being like, hey, okay, yeah, I really want this to be my full time job. So I'm going to just make it my full time job without having the safety net of knowing that like this actually works.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you just touched on obviously a massive portion of the book pays attention to the importance of making more money. And you're not going to take our matcha, but it's important to keep earning and to earn more. And I actually think so many women I know are guilty of never walking into that office to ask for the raise. They take the like 2 or 5% cost of living increase and just assume that's what they're going to get. And I think I've been hearing a lot from people in different industries, but industries that are admittedly being affected, that like, the person that sits to my right and two people to my left have just been laid off. And there's kind of an energy of like, I should be grateful to be here. I love my job. How do you recommend having those conversations when maybe the climate is a little challenging, but like living is still getting expensive and you do need to start asking for, what you need?
I think the first thing is like you need to, as a woman, be putting your oxygen mask on first. Like we have so much loyalty to our companies, which is great to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, like that's not your company. Like it's like you have free will and you need to embrace that and be going places where you can be paid where you're worth and where you can get pay increases. Um, and so I will say that, first of all, just having a wins folder at work really will help with your confidence. Like, whenever you do something great, your boss is giving you kudos, write it down in your folder because I promise you they're not remembering. Like, like you're giving feedback here and there, like, good job on this. Let's work a little bit on this. Like, you're not remembering every little thing that Kelsey did right, but you have to. So you come in with a track record. Then I would say, You want to ask for a raise when the company is doing well. Like, if you just saw that there's like a bunch of layoffs and, you know, corporate earnings are down, maybe it's not the time. But in the same way, if that happens and then there's a lot more on your plate and you don't see that there's an opportunity for a raise, you're not married to them. This is not your family. Like, go out in the job market while you have that security net and see what's out there. Right now, it is a really tough job market. It used to be during the
Yeah.
pandemic that like people could job hop all the Judah day. Every time that they job hop, they get a 20% raise. It was like the best thing ever. Now we're seeing the data is really pointing to people staying put, because there's not as much opportunity to like sort of lily pad into these other higher paying roles. But I will say that it's like, if you are in a place where you're doing good work and they're not able to pay you what you're worth, then you need to ask them what you would have to do in order to get that increase. And then I also talk about in the book a bat now, which is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement, which is like, great, they might not be able to give you more money right now, but what could they give you? Can you work from home more days a week? Which, like, okay, if you're like a mom or something like that, that's huge. You save time on the commute. You get to be with your kids more. Can you get a better title? Can you get money to take a course? Like, all these little things that you can negotiate besides your raise. But then at the end of the day, what I say in the book is like, but you really do just want more money. So if you are at a place where they can't give you more money, then it is time to just look at other places.
Right. And I think sometimes everyone has to hear that and actually take action.
I mean, you have to be bold. Like, it's like if you actually want to like become a future rich person, like it's not hard. It doesn't require anything more than like seventh grade math and like and understanding how the rules work, because the system was built for rich people. So you have to understand how the game is played if you ever want to win at it. And that's why the book is so great, because it gives you all those lessons.
I want to get into the details a bit about Future Rich Person. One of the things that made me fall in love with you through the lens, obviously I've followed your work, but through the lens of this book, is how open you are. And you kind of just come out and say, I started at the top. I just never learned about finances. And I think this is a space, and I can say, you said similar, my parents have given me the world. I grew up in the most wonderful, loving home. I literally basically don't know what a dollar is. Like, I really
Yep.
had to roll up my sleeves to learn. And I love that you kind of take the shame out of a space that can feel like a source of shame. Like, I think you hit, 30 even, and you're like, I should know all of these things. What would you say to the person at home who might feel a sense of shame about not feeling informed in this space?
Shame is a feeling that we get when we are blaming ourselves. But systemically, there's nothing to be there's nothing shameful about not understanding this, because you are never taught. So how can you expect yourself to understand any of this if no one ever taught you? And actually, the system is designed for you to fail. Financial services run on delinquents. Like, banks make money because poor people are in debt. Like, like it's like, it's really not your fault. Your money identity is basically shaped by the time that you're 7 years old. And so the first part of the book, before we even get into what an emergency fund is, what debt to pay off first, what accounts to open, how to invest, negotiating, all these fun, big things that you need to do to become a future rich person. The first thing that we do is we rework your money mindset. I have a 5-step money mindset program. It's proprietary. I've used it for 8 years to teach people. It's called Ibiza. Yes, like the island in Spain, but it is each of the letters in Ibiza stands for a step. So it's identify, blame, interrupt, judge, and act. And identify is the first step. And that's where you're going to figure out, what are these stories that you're telling yourself? Okay. Is it that I like have this shame about money? Is it that I think that it's greedy to want more money? Is it, that I think that there will never be enough, or that I'm not capable of earning it? Like, you have to break down what you're telling yourself, because identity shapes action. So if your identity is that you're someone who's bad with money and can never get better, then your actions are going to follow that. But the good news is that it's actually really easy to change. All it takes is just a little bit of awareness. But we go to therapy and we talk about our exes and their new haircuts and, the new girlfriend and like whatever. But no one's ever bringing up that like your mom, when you went to the store with her when you were little, always told you that like there wasn't enough. And so now you're, 35 and you feel that way too because you've never broken it down. So it's like,
Right.
you have to do a little bit of work on yourself to get yourself primed to actually become a future rich person and take action.
And on that note, let's talk taking action. What is the first thing that we need to do on the action front once we've made sure our mindset is in the right place when it comes to money?
So the first step is just honestly like setting up your accounts,
Yeah,
making
that's a
sure that
big
you have
one.
just making sure we have the right account set up because so many of us have like we go to college and there's that big fair when you're 18 the first day and they give you a pen if you open that bank account and you never actually look at like am I paying monthly service fees or like is it painful every time that I use this app like so it's about I talk a lot in the book about financial energy, right? Like you don't want to waste and this is something that they really confuse women with because they basically have told us forever to like use our financial energy, use whatever like incentive and like ambition that we have towards our finances to cut back. They're
Yeah,
like,
right,
"Okay, you have that, go coupon, girls. Go like, you make sure that like you're getting the loaf of bread at the lowest amount at 5 different stores." And it's like,
right,
"No, you need to use your financial energy for things that are going to move the needle more than that." And so we start by just working through your accounts. That's good financial energy use. Then we save a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Then we pay off your high interest rate debt. Then we max out your tax advantaged accounts. And then we think bigger about other accounts and other financial goals that you're saving for. And throughout this, there's also, a full budgeting plan. There's a lot of information too, just that I think creates like hyper awareness for how like we exist in the culture. Like our parents were advertised to 500 times a day. We are advertised to 5,000 times a day. So,
right,
yeah. So you realize, like, oh, if you feel like money is slipping through your fingers and you're spending it all the time, it's not just you. Spending is frictionless. We're all using Apple Pay like Apple be paying. And we're being told at every turn that we don't have enough, that we need more, and that our lives suck if we don't have it. And then
right,
the final part
right.
is just about how to keep the money. So it's about like growing generational wealth. It's about money etiquette. And it's about, getting the systems in place so that, once you get to this position where you feel financially secure, that it stays that way.
Right. I want to take you back. You mentioned step one really is about opening the right accounts and making sure that we've done that. I have to confess in this space because if I'm not honest, what's the point of this podcast? I opened my first high yield savings account this past year at 32. And it
That's
pains
great.
me because I think about the fact that, like, during the pandemic, when I wasn't paying Manhattan rent, I had, like, thousands of dollars sitting in like a TD bank account making zero money for me. But I actually really appreciated having in writing in front of me your guidance on kind of what we should be looking for. And I believe it's a checking account and a high yield savings account should be big priorities, right?
Yeah, that's where I start because I'm like I love that, Kelsey, and I feel like, and I appreciate your honesty too. And I think that it's like the idea in the first like moment of action is not like, hey, let's also set up all these investment accounts and all this other stuff. It's like, no, let's just get the bare minimum going so that your cash is in the right place. And you're right. It's just about having a high yield savings account and a banking account. And in that moment, you realize that you are in control of your financial life because you're choosing versus someone choosing for you.
Right.
You're actually like taking action versus just being someone who's like passive on this financial journey, which I think just kickstarts this future rich person era.
And I think it can be hard to know what to do. I see people ask all the time, and I think you just kind of beautifully laid it out for us in order. But like, okay, well, I have $10,000 in credit card debt right now. I don't have an emergency fund, and and I haven't started investing yet. And where do I begin? I think
Mhm.
people struggle with what to prioritize first.
Yeah, totally. And I talk about that in the book that it's sort of like if you're in an action movie and you're being attacked in a burning building. Do you first fight off the attacker, or do you focus on getting out of the burning building? And it's like, no, you have to get out of the burning building first. Cause like if you focus on the attacker, that doesn't matter because you're both going to die. So that's how it feels when you have no emergency fund and high interest rate debt. It's like you've got it coming at you from both angles, but it's like you gotta choose the one that's like the most dangerous in the moment to focus on, and then we're gonna deal with the other one later. So that's why you start with an emergency fund because without an emergency fund, you leave yourself uh, really open to getting into more debt. So there's a story in the book of, and I have a lot of stories from like followers and people I've interviewed. And there's a story in the book of this girl who had no emergency fund and she lost her job, couldn't pay her rent. And so then she Airbnb'd out her apartment without telling her landlord. It was illegal to do that and got bed bugs. And
I
so
know.
then I know it was horrible. I like wrote in the book, I was like, I'm so sorry that I wrote the word bed bugs. I know that we're all like scratching our skin right now, like so upset. Like it was horrible for me too, but I was like, this is her truth. And it actually is a great story. But
Yeah.
yeah, but then she had to pay so much money to get the bed bugs out of the apartment. Then she got kicked out of the apartment too because the landlord was so pissed at her to move in with her parents. So it's like just by not having that safety net, her life was so much worse when some because everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Right. Murphy's
So
Law.
yeah, Murphy's Law. And so you have to put yourself in the position where like even if it does, that you are going to be able to bounce back.
Right. Okay. And obviously, as we touched on beforehand, making more money is certainly helpful in the process of becoming a future rich person. And not only do you tackle negotiating in the job that you're in, you also talk about negotiating when going to a new job. And I really loved some of the takeaways that you included there. Can you share some of your top tips for negotiating your salary before accepting a new role?
I think the first thing with negotiating that's so important is just to understand that it's totally normal and actually the person that you're negotiating with is going to respect you more if you do it. Like as someone with employees, like when people negotiate with me, I'm like, good. They should be negotiating. Like that's correct. If they don't, like I had a girl work for me and she didn't negotiate at all. And I was like, okay. And then when she left, I was like, Lex, I just want you to know that you really should have negotiated. And from now on, like, you need to make sure that you do that. And she was like, I know I was just so desperate for the job. Like, I had been unemployed for a while. And I was like, does it matter? Like, just like from the perspective of the employer, like, trust me, it's totally normal. And like, actually, it's just like, it's a money etiquette thing. It's just like something that you absolutely everyone should do. So know that it's normal, then understand the comps. So you have to know what your fair market value is. So look through there's so much information now online about like how much people get paid. Look through that, figure out like what the going rate is for someone who does your role so you understand that. And then I would say you also should figure out exactly what you need to do in order to get a pay increase. Like, what does success look like at this role? Because then you can get really clear on what you're working towards.
Right. I love this. There's temptation all around us. How do we make being smart with money sexy? Like in our own lives, how can we check ourselves on that?
I love that you brought this up because it's like you're right. Like we grew up in the age of Carrie Bradshaw spending all of her money on shoes instead of a house. We grew up with,
Yeah.
in Issa Rae in Insecure. She's bankrolling the situationship. We grew up with Elle Woods going to the nail salon whenever she's upset, like spending money, like little treat economy. Like all of the chic women in the culture were always bad with money.
Yes.
And it was sort of this like feminized trait, like as though being a cool, sexy girl meant that like you just like didn't care about your finances. Like that was like a really easy identity for us all to sort of take on ourselves. But
Yeah.
I really believe that if you know your why, then it's really easy to understand why not. And so you have to understand like what does your future rich person look like? Like future rich person, you read this book, it's not like you're reading this book so you can become a billionaire. you're reading this book for what your idea of a rich life is. Like for me, it's like, okay, I'm renting in Manhattan. I want to get a house outside of Manhattan somewhere. Like I love taking vacations. I love being generous to my friends. I love having my dogs. I want to have kids. And like, I really want to have a biodynamic farm in the Caribbean. Like that's what I'm working towards, that I want to live at like 6 months a year. Like
I love all
I
of that.
Yes, yes, yes. But it's like that's something I'm like actively working towards because I don't think I'll be in the city forever. And like I really just want to live like by the ocean and like a gorgeous, like Slim Aaron's vibe. I think that suits me, with lots of poodles. That's
Yes.
sort of what I'm going for, Kelsey. But it's like, okay, I know that. And so when I see temptation, it makes it go away a lot. But I also think that it's like money noise gets a lot quieter the more that you have. So like your money noise about what you want in order to look rich is going to be a lot louder the less that you have and the less in control that you have, because it's a way to sort of fake that identity. And
Right.
so that's why you see billionaires in hoodies, because they're like, I don't give a shit, Like for me, like I'm glammed up for work right now, but it's like most of the time it's like I'm wearing an orthopedic shoe, I'm wearing a stretchy pant, and it's like I have about 4 hoodies that I rotate through. Like it's like it's not a fashion show. Like I like literally just like there's nothing to prove.
We're
And
comfortable.
so yeah, I'm comfortable. And it's like, so I think that it's really, it all comes from being in control of your money and knowing what you're working towards.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I
Have you
think to
seen
your
that in your own life?
I think I mean, I'm not joking when I tell you that I've made shifts very recently in life. Like in my 20s, I don't know what planet I was living on. I just didn't put a lot of thought into money. I just was living and I wasn't concerned with saving. And I think I'm in a unique time where I'm so focused on trying to set future me up and
I
finding
love
I'm not
that.
good at missing out on things. So I still want to have fun and enjoy my now, which you address in the book, being able to do. But every time I can put, even if it's like $50 towards future me, I'm like, yes, because I too would like to be living at the beach and I would like to
Mhm.
be, having a specific type of life. And so I do think if I have that almost as like my metaphorical vision board, it's like, okay, I can put $200 towards like the top I just saw on Instagram, or I can put $200 towards getting me closer to those things. And my desire for that is greater. So I think you really hit the nail on the head with that.
There's when I started my financial journey, I read a book called Warren Buffett's Ground Rules, and it's basically like all of Warren Buffett's shareholder letters and the TLDR of the book that's like in my book too. You don't have to read that one, just read Future Rich Person, is just compound interest. And so like
Yes.
once you also understand how much that $200 on the top on Instagram would then be in the market, like if you invest $200 a month starting at age 25, at an average 8 to 10% return, you will have over $700,000 by the time you're 60, And so just even thinking about that it's like if you say no to one little purchase like that per month and put it in the market, that you're going to have almost $1 million. Like, are you kidding? Like, you can do that. And so I think, yeah, the compounding really helps you, like right size your needs because, it lets you know like what you're missing out on.
Right. You broke that down in the book, and I was looking at the numbers, and on the spot, I was like, "Let me open Fidelity right now and let
So
me
proud of you,
do
Kelsey.
something." Thank
That's
you, because I
good.
really am. I'm not kidding. I feel like in a lot of ways, the past few years, I've started from scratch, and it's extremely helpful. And before we get away from it, I was obsessed with your dedication in the book and how you identified Warren Buffett as your celebrity crush. Have you ever
He
gotten to
is my
meet him?
celebrity crush. No, I really need to meet him. Like, I am dying. If anyone's listening knows him, I'm dying to get the book to him because it's dedicated to him. And I think once I'm done launching the book in like 2 weeks, that will be my next side quest for the year, is like going to Omaha and freaking meeting Warren Buffett.
I think that's what needs to happen. We have to put that
I
into the
agree.
universe.
I know. I think I can make it happen too. Like I just haven't, I've been like so focused on this, but like I'm a pretty good manifester. I think I
Yeah.
can do it.
Yeah, it's coming. I'm
Um
excited to see that. I'm gonna be
I
keeping
actually
my eyes
know his
peeled.
like, yeah, you have to. I know his granddaughter, and so I was like joking with, or I know his grandson's wife, and
Okay.
I was joking with her. I was like, "Oh, like Warren's my boyfriend." Like, and she was like, That's so she, like, believed me because I think he does date sometimes, like, younger women. She was like, "Oh, it's so weird. He, like, usually likes blondes with, like, really big boobs." I was like, "Okay, drag me, but also, like, I will go blonde, like, whatever he needs, like,
Well,
whatever more he needs, I'm gonna do."
I am obsessed with that. You talk about how in order to get rich, we need to have action money. Can you set up for anyone at home who might not know what action money is?
Yeah, so action money is sort of like the whole formula that being a future rich person revolves around. And so what I say in the beginning of the book is like your job is to make sure that we have action money. My job as your financial dominatrix is to tell you exactly what to do with it. So it's like I'm not the kind of expert who's like giving you gray advice. Like if you read this book, you will know exactly what to do, but you just have to make sure that you are spending less than you make so that you have that action money left over at the end of the month to play with. And that's what you use to accomplish your financial goals. So it doesn't matter where you're at in your financial journey. You could be big on Wall Street, you could be a teacher, whatever your salary is, you need to have that action money, that like difference and be able to put it to work or you're never going to progress your financial life and you'll stay on the treadmill. And this is why, by the way, I talk about it in the book, there was this janitor who died with $8 million. And it's like because that man knew about action money. His name was Ronald. And it's like, it's a real story. He died with $8 million. And it's like, yeah, because he didn't spend more than he made. And he put that money to work every month in the stock market, bought low cost index funds. And when he died, it had compounded to $8 million. But then you also will hear about like Wall Street bankers who are like terribly in debt because they're just like so obsessed with lifestyle and they're not actually growing any wealth. And so it's just really important to have that difference. But I also understand that with the high cost of living and with, cost of living has increased 67% since 2000, wages have increased 7%. So it's really hard to find the action money. And so that's where I talk a lot, but it's not impossible. So, like, so much of the book is like, okay, we're identifying the things that are hard, but we're also going to find a way around them. Like, a true future rich person is not taking no for an answer. We're finding the solution, despite the fact that it might not be so obvious in front of us. And so it's like, great. It's hard to make more money. Okay, what skills do you have? How can we develop them? AI is huge right now. Instead of being so scared it's going to take your job, it's not going to take the job of someone who knows how to use it. Go learn how to get really good at AI. Like spend your weekend becoming someone who's more valuable in the workforce so that you can be paid more. Like we put limits on ourselves.
I read that those numbers, the 67% of it all and the 7% of it all out loud. There was like an audible gasp, like to have it laid out like that. It's like tricky thing to remedy, but you're right that it's just you have to like find your power and harness that a little bit, do what you can.
Do what you can and like you have to figure out also like that's why the money date which is in the book of this like time every month to look through your finances is so important because how you spend money should be a like diary of what you value.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to look at what you spend and be like, yes, like that was an amazing dinner with my friends. That was an awesome trip. That was like, I bought a new plant that I freaking love, you know,
Yeah.
versus you go through it and you're like, oh, I went on that bachelorette where like I hated everyone and like I didn't want to go. I bought 6 coffees that I didn't even finish, which like honestly, I don't buy coffee that much. And then when I do, I never drink it. So that's me. Like, it's just like, oh, and I'm like, Girl, just say that you want to take a walk. You don't need to say that you need to get a coffee." I still struggle with that, but it's like, you know, it should be at your best, that's what it should be, is where you're seeing your spending and it is just really aligned with what you value and you don't have that extra fluff that's like getting in the way.
Yeah. I love that. Are financial behaviors not always on full display? When do you think that you should start having conversations about money when you're dating or in a romantic relationship of sorts?
You know, the proper answer to this is like when you have a big moment with the person, like you're moving in together, you're going on vacation, you're getting a dog, and like finances become more intertwined. But like, I think that like if your finances are a priority, that to me, that's like a value of mine. So
Yeah.
when I date, it comes up a lot like money because it's like that's uh, part of who I am. That's
Right.
something that I'm working towards. That's like a big part of like my vision for my life, you know? So I don't think
Mhm.
it's necessary for you to ask someone their credit score or their like, bank account number on the first date, but I do think that, like, having it be something that you're not scared to talk about is really important.
Yeah, for sure. This podcast really obviously addresses kind of that timeline anxiety that we can all be made to feel like by 30, you're supposed to have it all figured out. It kind of tackles it head on. For somebody who is feeling financially behind right now, what would your message to them be? Is it ever too late to become a future rich person?
Wait, first of all, for this whole thing on 30, like, yesterday I was watching an Instagram reel of Nikki Glazer, and she was like, "I want a refund for everyone whose wedding I went to in their 20s, because it's like they're all getting divorced." Like, it's
Yeah.
like, what is this idea that in our 20s, we're supposed to know anything? Like, it's like the 30s are the best years. Like, this is when, like, things like and we're the first generation where we can of women where we can really choose and take our time. Like, it's freaking awesome to be in your 30s and, like, to be figuring it out. Like, God and by the way, I talked to a woman last week who I call it your aha money moment. She
Uh-huh.
was 58 when she had it because
Wow.
she was, widowed, and the husband, rest in peace, had always taken care of the finances, and then when he died, she was like, "I gotta, boss up." And
Right.
so it happened to her when she was 58, and she's, like, in control of her finances now and, like, turned over this whole new leaf. So it's like, that's why I hate when people ask Mrs. Dow Jones, "Who's it for?" I'm like, "What do you mean, who's it for?" It's like, this could happen to anyone at any time in their life. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best time to start was today. Um, and that's really the core of the message with, like, being in your 30s. It's like, hey, don't blame yourself for not starting. There's no information around this that's, like, given in school. It's not, like, normalized in the culture. Maybe it's becoming a little bit more normalized now, but it's really not, like, been a thing. And, like, the most important thing is that you're starting.
Thank you for that message because it's one that I have needed to hear, and I know many others too. There's so much to talk about when it comes to future rich person. I can't even scratch the surface in this conversation, so everybody needs to go and get it. But if people are going to leave with just one takeaway, what do you hope that that is? What would you like that to be?
The takeaway that I hope that they have is that there is, like, a million reasons and, like, factors pushing against you, telling you that you can't grow wealth, or, like, that, like, you're never gonna be in control of your money, and, like, there's a million reasons that you might be doubting yourself, but you need to ignore them and move past them, because all it takes is understanding the rules of the game and you can win it. So that's like, invest in your financial literacy, take these steps, even if they seem small, and they are going to amount to something so much bigger. Um, and that there's still so much possibility for you to grow rich and have, like, a fabulous life and, like, your version of the American dream, even though it's really changed. So just don't be dissuaded. Don't have financial nihilism.
I love it. Thank you so much, Haley, for doing this. Congratulations on Future Rich Person. The link to buy the book will be in the show notes. So, everyone, make sure you go run and do that. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was so great to talk to you, Kelsey. I'm Haley Sachs, and I hope that people leave 30, flirty, and rich.